we'll start rolling.
Do you have an intro?
No intro, nothing. This is actually it.
All right.
This is all I've got. No, I'm not prepared tonight. It's been a rough week. It's been a really rough week, but we are live. We are on the airways. Welcome to the official, unofficial podcast of Melbourne Demons, the DeeBrief. I'm your host, Adrian Horton. I'm joined by Matt Adams and Sam Adamans. Whoa-wee. Looking splendorous in his Demons top. Is that a Demons top? Is that what happened?
It's not, but let's just say it was a late night Instagram ad purchase. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, I'm buying that.
They've got the algorithm.
And the theory was, I'll make it my finals kit. And it's zipping one because I wore it last week, but I'm hoping to make it 1-on-1 this week.
Oh, you're going to wear it again?
Yeah.
I'm going to pour beer on it tonight.
We'll burn it later.
So you can't wear it. Boys, it's been a very interesting week. It's been a week of mixed emotions. There's been a lot of anger. There's been a lot of dejection. There's been a lot of frustration at certain powers, like the AFL and like the media. But there's a game of footy tomorrow night, and Melbourne need to focus. The players need to rouse themselves, and they need to get themselves into the right mindset because there's a prelim on the line here, and we want to get there and give ourselves the best opportunity, regardless of the fact that it'll be at the Gabba. We know their record. We get it. They're this attacking force, and no one can stop them. But Melbourne need to get off the canvas, and I certainly think the supporters as well. We need to, get a pep in our step. We need to start getting excited about the prospect of playing a final at the MCG against a big, old, historic club like Carlton, who've got their tails up, and we need to embrace it. And if I'm being frank with you, Adzy, I don't think I've embraced it until maybe half an hour ago when we had our first beer together.
Yeah, look, as you said, it's been a weird week, but I think there's been a lot of media beat up as well about everything's been on the Pies, how good they are, and it's almost like we've lost by 100 points. But if you look at the stats, we lost by 7. Look, we didn't play well. And then you've got the incident that happened with Gus, which we won't talk about, but I just think we need to regroup. We still have a chance. If you look at Hibbo's retirement speech, it looks like internally they're all talking about 3 more weeks. That's what we have to do. So we just need to go out there and beat the Blues. And then I think, as I was saying to you before, we're one of the only teams that can probably beat Brisbane up there. I think we're the last team that actually beat them. So we really need to let go of that Collingwood loss, as hard as it is, because you never know. We could potentially face them in a grand final.
Definitely. Sam, what about you? Where are you sitting?
If I was to sum up how I'm feeling at the moment, it is I'm scared that we could lose this week and go out straight sets. But I'm also confident if we can win this week, we could actually go up to Brisbane and win and get into a grand final. It's a weird space to be in, but I honestly feel like if we can beat a rampaging Carlton in front of another what's going to be raucous crowd, and win, not convincingly, because if you look at the last few times we played them, I think it's going to be a bit of a slugfest. But if we can win that and get up to Brisbane, strange things happen in prelims. And Brisbane 12-0 this year. It is set for them to really feel the pressure. And as we've said, it would be a free swing. It's sort of like tomorrow night, the pressure is on us, right? We want to avoid straight sets for the second year in a row. We've been the higher rated side all year. We've outside of, Gus and a couple of the forwards, we've got a full bill of health. Like if you look at our top 8 players, we've probably got 7 of them available. So there's no excuses there. It's on us to win tomorrow night. If we get through that and we go up to Brisbane, I feel like it's going to be on them.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the biggest things has been our mentality. It's been questioned throughout the whole week. It's been questioned probably throughout the whole year, and then we obviously got it going in the back half of the year, and we got our mojo, and we won the last 7 of 8 before coming into the Pies game. So the form line and even the way that we played last week, first quarter aside, and I'm going to speak to that in just a moment, but there are so many different elements of our game that are intact. And I wouldn't have much confidence coming into this week if contested stoppage clearance and just defensively behind the ball and the way that we set up, if some of those elements were out of whack, I don't think I'd have much confidence at all, to be honest. But the fact that they're still going really well and it feels like so many parts of our game are up and running gives me a lot of hope, because if you actually look at a couple of things in isolation, thinking about it more after the Collingwood loss, when Angus Brayshaw goes down, the exact same emotional reaction happened when Max Gawn went down in round 2 against Brisbane. The only other worst first quarter that we have had as a team has been against North Melbourne, funnily enough, down in Hobart. And I reckon that's an easy one to understand, because when we lost to them down there, I think it was a team just rocking up thinking, oh, well, fuck, we'll just collect the 4 points. We put the foot on the gas. We eventually got a 5-goal win. So that start against them, I can completely understand. I didn't like it. I was ropeable about it, and I made that pretty clear on the review show. But I could process it. I knew there were reasons for it. But then the other two worst first quarter points differentials that we've had were Brisbane at the Gabba in round 2 and Collingwood in week 1 of the finals. And I think that emotional toll on losing one of your prime movers and one of your most important players early actually really rattled us and shocked us. And some people will say this and they'll go, that's fucking piss weak. But they're not robots. They're humans.
He was out cold.
Correct.
For 2 minutes. Yeah.
And this is a guy that's had extensive issues with concussion. So the thing about that incident is, I think I didn't point it out on the review show at the time, but I genuinely do believe that there's a correlation between the two, because it's already happened earlier in the season. And I know a lot of people will say, no, the players need to compartmentalise and they need to move on. If the shoe was on the other foot and Collingwood were to lose a Scott Pendlebury or a Steele Sidebottom in the first few minutes, I'm sorry. It's going to rattle you.
Yeah,
We
did it the week before against Sydney. We've had a few games this year where we've had something go really wrong in the first quarter or early on in the game, and we've had to reset every time. And I think every time we have reset, even Brisbane in round 2 or whatever it was, yes, they smashed us and then the lights went out, but we still got back in it.
Yeah.
Then Collingwood, same sort of thing with Brayshaw last week. They were all over us. And then we end up coming back.
Yeah.
And then the other one was Sydney. So Sydney, we had a couple of big in-game disruptions. So firstly, Frida, who's coming back from his foot issue, goes off and everyone's like, oh my God, probably more supporters than the players themselves. But then Melksham goes down as well. And we rallied big time in that game to come back. So I think there's two elements to it. I think it's, you could say, is it our starts are shit? They're just shit. And in those two particular games, they've been made worse because something's happened.
Yes.
And then the other way you can look at it is, well, every time it has happened, we have been able to respond. So I'm just hoping that this week, the last 2 weeks, we've had in-game injuries that we had to deal with. Let's just hopefully get through and no one go down early.
But also, I think early on as well, and I know, Naughtsie, you touched on the how bad our starts have been. And this is so rough against this player, but like someone like a Trac, I know it took him pretty much a half to get going last week.
Same against Sydney as well.
And lots of that happened. Lots of that is because Gus went down. He couldn't go forward. He had to do more of a midfield role. But if someone like Trac comes out firing from the very first bounce, he kicks a goal in the first quarter, he gets the crowd up. Even like Kozzy, just start well, and that changes the whole mentality of your team. We don't want to be in that position where it gets to 3/4 time or half time or whatever it is, and Petrarca is thinking, I need to put everyone on my shoulders here, and same as Max, and we need to carry this team over the line, because they know they have the ability. But it's almost like they're like, fuck, we've just gassed this first half when we could have played the way we're playing now, and now we're playing catch-up. So just come out as hard as you can from the first bounce, and you don't need to do that. And then you can just play your normal game and you can win a game of football.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I think one of the biggest things about tomorrow night is how we start. I went through it on the review show. the starts have been horrific. They've been so frustrating. And I didn't average it out, but my gut feel is if you take the Brisbane game out of the equation, where we kicked 6-2 in the first quarter, which was a brilliant start to the game for us and set us up and actually allowed us to then...
That was the opposite.
Miraculously, win by a point in the end. But if you actually look at our starts and you were to average it out, I'll run through it quickly again. Sydney's 3-2, round 23 against Hawthorn's 3-2, Carlton's 1 goal, that's it. North's 1-3, Richmond's 3-5, and Adelaide's 2-2.
Yeah,
They're shocking starts.
I read today from round 20, we've only won one first quarter, and that was against a team that had kicked themselves. They kicked like 5 points or something.
Is there something in there that, I don't know, game plan wise, what Goodwin's saying, but is there something that we change when we go down to make us become more attacking? Is it something that is an actual coaching move that from the bounce we need to be in that attacking mindset? Are we being too complacent, thinking that we've got the best midfielders, best defenders going around, we'll just strangle them and we'll be able to score? Or
I don't know the answer. You go back and you watch the games and you look at how lackluster the first quarters have been, and it's hard to put a finger on it. The most simplistic thing I've heard is, we just sit there and we feel our way through the game and we figure out how the other team is set up. And I'm like, really? Is that actually the argument that we're going with? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because we've seen Melbourne before in times gone by, and even in final series. In 2018 against Geelong and Hawthorn, we came out of the blocks. We've come out of the blocks in some huge games, some big games. One game that just pops into my mind is the Brisbane semi-final last year. We gassed that in the end, but we kicked 3-6 in the first quarter and we were fucking obliterating them. We kicked 6-8 to halftime in that game, and unfortunately we fell apart, and it's well documented that we weren't very fit and we had a lot of players carrying injuries, and well done to Brisbane. They were absolutely brilliant in that second half. They ran over the top of us. Fair play. But we've had a lot of big games on the big stage. There was another one against Collingwood, round 21 last year, that's just popped into my brain. The same thing. We kicked inaccurately in the first half, but we could have put the game to bed. We actually started fast. So this trend of slow starts in the past 2 months, it's baffling to me. I don't get it. Why?
Yeah, but to me it seems like a game plan thing. We're told to go out and play a specific way, and then when shit goes wrong, we're like, all right, let's go full out attack. So
there's no doubt Collingwood were just hungrier than us in the first quarter last week.
I reckon
they were. If you watch it without any bias, they were first at the ball. Yep. They were harder. They were cleaner. They were running hard.
100%.
We kept getting caught. Yeah, we kept getting caught. Obviously the way we play is to push right up and try and lock it in our forward half. And then if something goes wrong around the ball, then it just slingshots out the back. And Bobby Hill got 2 goals in the first quarter as a result. Then we somehow settled. But you think back to last year. Last year we were the front runner. So in racing terms, we were the horse at the front of the pack leading into the straight, and then slowly but surely, week on week, we'd get run down. I almost, it's funny to think this way, but I almost prefer what we're doing now, is that that you've got the legs in the tank.
We're always in the game.
You're always in the game, but our starts are costing us. We're just false starting a little bit each week here and there.
Yeah.
I don't think there's many games in the last couple of months where we actually have got it right, and hopefully tomorrow night we can. And as you say, I think thinking back to your point on Petrarca, the last 2 weeks, his first half against Sydney he was nowhere either, and then he came back and pretty much won us the game against Sydney. And then last week he had 22 in the second half.
So that's the thing.
He's an A grader, that needs to be on from the very start.
Time.
There are variables that are going to impact it. He might get a tag in the first quarter, who knows? But if you can do it in the second quarter onwards, you can surely work it out as a group to start doing it from the first bounce.
And I think something just quickly on that, and we touched on it as well with Petrarca last week, is that his game plan was probably thrown a little bit out of whack just because of the Gus injury.
Yeah.
So he was probably thinking, I'm going to be able to roll forward here. And then, in the first 5 minutes, that completely changes. Goody says, you need to be in the midfield the whole game. So his whole mindset probably changes, and it probably took him a quarter to
But
work
still,
out.
they had how long was Gus on the ground for? You had 10 minutes to work it out. Okay, this is what's happening now strategically. Gus is out, so Trac, this is your role. Like you had a bit of time.
And he's a gun midfielder, and we know that. But the thing that sort of excites me about this week is that I'm thinking, teams haven't come out for us yet, but I'm thinking JJ will come in, and if I was a Carlton supporter and Christian Petracca was going forward, we've seen what he can do. He's one of those players, like put him anywhere, he'll kick goals. So he's one of those targets that even if we do our long bombs in, you get a Clary streaming through and he just, or as Scotty said, Max pulls his 9-9 out and just bombs it up. Trac is someone that can at least bring that to ground. He has the body work and he'll be able to slow it down for like a Kozzy to run past or a Bailey Fritsch to run past, which is something that a Van Rooyen doesn't really have at the moment. He can crash packs, but he doesn't have that goal sense and doesn't have that sense of his players around him at the moment, which is why I reckon Petracca up forward, in all honesty, for us, if we want to go deep and we want to play a prelim and we want to win a grand final, he needs to play lots of time deep forward for us to win this flag.
I'm in 100% agreement with that. I think Petracca is our absolute X factor in the forward half. The only player, I believe, since 2021 that has more goal assists than him is Hugh McCluggage. Trac's had a ridiculous record when it comes to score involvement since 2020 as well. He's ranked inside the top 4. He's been first and second in a couple of those and fourth in one of the other years. Like, this guy is the ultimate connector. He's the full package. He's tough in a contest. He's aerially, he's unbelievable. And he's just the hardest matchup. Like
he's kicked 27 goals.
Yeah, and he should have
that's better than a lot of the forwards in the team.
Yeah, and he should have kicked more. Like there's still a little bit of a knock on his kicking, and he knows that. It's improved a bit. Like last year, it was horrible. He was 1931, and that doesn't even include scores that weren't registered. But he's much better this year.
You know what excites me is, remember the first game we put him forward because we started having issues with personnel. It was against St Kilda at the Dome in perfect conditions.
And do you know what?
And he kicked 4 straight.
Do you know what that was after? So Goodwin referenced it in the presser. So he said our worst 2 games this year were against GWS when we had all those inside 50s.
Yeah.
And we didn't convert. And then we had the final against Collingwood where we had all the inside 50s and we didn't convert.
Yeah.
The week after, we played St Kilda. Trac went forward and he kicked 4 goals.
Yeah. And so perfect conditions at the Dome. Tomorrow night's looking like could be just perfect for
the way we want it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm all for it. Like we're probably spending too long on Trac, but
fair.
I want at some point in the game Melbourne to get less focused on just locking it in their forward half so it's really congested and just push them out 50 metres and just leave either a Kozzy or a Petracca in the goal square alone.
The only way we can do that, though, is if we, from a defensive line point of view, we're a little bit deeper. And if we're a little bit deeper, it means that we might not get as many entries
but that's
going
okay.
inside 50.
That's okay. Because that forces them to lower their eyes.
Correct. Well,
because you're not just going to be bombing it to a pack.
Yeah, I agree. And then the other thing that we need to do is we need to just look inboard. We need to look inside. Yeah. We need to change the angles. There were so many times last week, and I do love where we stand on the wing because you got a good sense of ball movement. And ball movement last week, it was like, look inside for that little 15, 20 metre kick that'll open up the field and allow the forwards to lead into some space. But we would just continuously take the kick down the line. I was like, stop taking the fucking kick down the line. It's so easy to set up for. And when you've got a team like Moore and Quaynor and these types of guys that are intercepting, like, it was a feast for them. It was actually easy for them in hindsight to defend that because the ball movement was so predictable. We need to change that.
I also think just watching both games, like Melbourne Collingwood, I was there live and then I watched the Carlton game on TV. The intensity for our game, like the amount of time that players had to get rid of the ball, both teams, Collingwood and Melbourne, was nothing. Like, it was literally get the ball, you've got to split.
You mean high intensity?
High intensity.
Yeah.
So it was high intensity to get rid of the ball. The Carlton Swans game, I think they were not really close to that in the first half. So I think we'll have a little bit more time to make those decisions. And that's what Collingwood do. And that's why they're a great team. They put you under pressure and you have to kick the ball straight away. And we crumbled under it. Like, we were just bombing it in. I reckon even if you get an extra half a second, those players, to lower your eyes, they'll be able to do it. So I'm a lot more confident going to this game. I was hopeful going against Collingwood. I still think they're gettable. We didn't play that well. I don't think Collingwood played that well either.
Nah, they didn't.
But I think with the Collingwood, just really quickly, there was probably method in that as well. Like, because they know that Collingwood are a centre team, if that makes sense. They go through the middle and they get you on the rebound. So they're probably like, well, against Collingwood, let's just try and push it up against the boundaries as much as we can. Yes, we need to bomb it in. It didn't work, and obviously they've acknowledged that. But against Carlton, I don't think they play the same way. Carlton are very similar to us. We're a bit of a stoppage team, contested team.
Yeah.
There is probably less risk taking that 25-metre kick into the middle because you're not as worried about it being cut off and then you've done the other way. So I think that plus the fact that they've copped it all week, I reckon we'll see some more adventurous kicks into the middle this week.
And this is why the Carlton game last time, where we'd lose because of the liar on the line and all that, but Carlton got their win and fair play. They're in the finals and we're coming up against them this week. I'm starting to get excited, funnily enough.
Good. Yeah, we need to start getting excited here.
The reason why it was such a brutal contest, especially that last quarter, the pressure rating and the pressure on the ball carrier was insane. It was off the Richter scale. I remember going back and watching the fourth quarter a couple of times just to see how much time players had to dispose of the ball. It was almost non-existent. It was fucking crazy because you're right. Both teams play a very similar brand. And the other thing about Melbourne and Carlton as well is they're really inefficient going inside 50. So we're the
Blues the same?
Yeah, they're the same. So we're the worst team at going inside 50. So we have a mountain of inside 50s and our conversion rate is junk. But because we have so many, we generally find ways to win games, and it's always been an issue with us. Like, that's the way that we play. We've recruited a lot of contested balls and prioritized that over like polish and class.
It
and
helps that we've got
speed.
3 A graders in the midfield pushing it forward all
Yeah,
the time.
and we like to compress the field and we like to have a player high line with our defensive line, right? So the reason why a goal wasn't kicked with 11 minutes, 30 seconds on the clock, I think it was when Joel Smith put us within a goal, is because both teams love to squeeze up. Both teams love to play that contested brand and make it congested. And that's why it was so brutal. That's why there was no time and there was no space. And a lot of people were saying that's a finals game. I'm like, It is a finals game in one sense, but in the other sense, you don't want to replicate that game if you're Carlton and Melbourne, because the biggest challenge for Carlton and Melbourne tomorrow night is actually trying to find separation and space inside 50 and actually trying to hit up targets. Because both teams are really good at applying pressure, really good at the stoppages and clearances, and really good defensively. Like, they set up really well behind the ball. Nick Newman's their quarterback. Trent Rivers has become our quarterback this year and done an awesome job of that. They've got a Wiedering. We've got a Jake Lever, right? And they're almost carbon copies of each other. But the one thing that both teams really suck at, to be honest, and it's hurt them, is they're just not efficient going inside 50. So I reckon it's on both teams. If you're Melbourne and if you're Carlton, I almost reckon the game will get separated as long as it's an even battle in the midfield, which will obviously be big in terms of clearance. But it'll come down to which team is a little bit cleaner and can actually deliver the ball going inside 50 or change the angles to give forwards a chance when they get possession of the ball in that second or third chain. That is where the game will be won or lost.
Yeah.
Because both teams are so similar and they're junk at delivering it inside 50.
Yeah. There's that, but there's also both teams have both got issues up forward in terms of personnel. So
big time.
I probably think that Harry
star.
Mackay out is less of an issue for them than Jack Martin. Jack Martin the last few weeks has been really good,
amazing.
Really important, link-up player, can take a mark.
Took a couple of big marks in the last quarter.
Yeah, like he's a gun. And so they were both starting 6 players up forward for them last week. They've got to get replacements for them, just like us. You know, we've had Van Ruin go out. we'll see what the teams are doing later. But I think we're kind of really evenly matched in terms of the centre and defence, as Adzy was saying. It's probably going to come down to who can get off the leash. And I kind of feel like May has done a really good job on Curnow this year. He's only kicked one and two. So that's the other thing. This is our third crack at them this year. And since 2016, they've only beaten us once out of 8 times. So, and the last time, the actual time they beat us, you could argue, and if any of our cousins, any of our Blues cousins are listening to this, it wasn't a bloody goal.
Fuck you, James.
Yeah, so I think we should be confident, but it really will come down to, I think, winning that territory around the ball, but also not letting one of their forwards get off the leash.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other thing about Carlton from a forward structural point of view is when you lose Harry Mackay, and some people are trying to say that they're better off without him. I didn't play the game for a hell of a long time after school, but I played the game for long enough to understand how important a big, tall bloke,
he's 7 foot,
can clunk them is, especially like relieving pressure and taking marks down the line. Like, I'm sorry, if you actually go back and watch the tape, he got involved in a lot of scoring chains. Yes, he fucking gassed it in front of goal. But
he should have kicked 2 at least.
Yeah, but it's such a generic view for people to not look at the body of work that he did further up the ground and allowed them to be an outlet. And when he went down, don't forget, they were 21 points up. And then when he went off the ground, they looked like they lost all of that structure. And when they put Luke Parker on Wiedering as well, and he started doing a number on him, they struggled to have an outlet down the line that could actually relieve the pressure.
Yeah, and now they don't have that. And so they're going to bring in a Matt Kennedy or someone for him. Is he going to be able to do the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think, like, if you're May and Lever, you're loving the news that Mackay's out. Like, if we're playing chaos ball and you're bombing in, there's a guy who is 7 foot that you don't need to cover. They can put all of their focus on Charlie, who's an absolute superstar, probably close to the best player in the comp at the moment. But I have full faith that May and Lever, and possibly even like a Max floating back, will be able to stop his damage. And when I say stop his damage, like, I'm expecting, 1 or 2 goals. He could easily get more, but if we can keep him to 2 goals, and we can get like a Trac up the other end, or a Bailey Fritsch, who would love these conditions. Like, Bailey Fritsch is a very fair weather footballer. He loves the dry conditions. He'll if we can get him off the chain, then we're home. And I think we've brought up Petrarca a few times, and the only reason I'm speaking about him so much is just because I think he's so important, and we're just, if he plays well from the start, we win.
Yeah, but he's been our best few the whole year.
Yeah, but it's literally as simple as that. Like, he is, and it's so rough against him because he's such a gun. Like, he could win the Brownlow.
No, I don't think it's just Petrarca.
No, but if he kicks an early goal in the first quarter, goes forward and then goes into the midfield and controls it, we win the game. Just,
do you know
he was missing the last 2 weeks?
Can I challenge you here? So last week, our small forwards didn't, in my opinion, do their job. So we had Chandler, no goals, A and B.
No tackles.
No goals. Yeah, I'm getting to that. So they didn't kick goals, and then they also didn't apply the pressure that we're known for. So 9 of our players last week had a combined 10 tackles. Clayton Oliver alone had 10 tackles. So that to me says that, and 3 of those I think were in our forward half. It was like Tom McDonald, Chandler, and one other.
Viney randomly only
had one. So to me, it's like, yes, we always get praised for being this contested team. We hunt the contest. We've had 9 blokes have 10 tackles between them.
Yeah.
So if we can get a little bit of a lift there, and I'm talking about your Chandlers, if Spargo comes in, which I hope happens, and maybe Bailey Laurie goes out, just a bit of experience. It has happened?
Yeah.
Are the teams out?
Yeah, they're
okay,
out.
We'll get to that. But I want to see those blokes support your Fritters and support your Tracs and those guys that go down there and your Joel Smiths and actually just hunt and tackle. Because last week they didn't do that.
So I think we're, just before we go to the teams, we're on the same page. Obviously, we want that. As a forward group, we want that pressure. But I'm just saying, you'd hope that would come throughout our, training and whatever our game plan is.
We can't rely on Trac and Gus every time.
We can't rely on them. But I'm just saying, if he plays a great game from the start, we're going to be hard to beat. He's that good. He's that good a footballer that if he plays the way he did in the last 2 halves against Sydney and Collingwood, we win that game.
Yeah, I think last week shows you can have your best players up and going and playing amazing football and you can still lose. So to me, it's the rest of the team chipping in.
Yeah, I think that's valid, and I think Adzy's point is very valid as well. I think you're both right. We need more from that bottom 6, that bottom 8 that didn't perform last week. I rattled off a host of names last week that just weren't up to it and didn't really contribute in my mind, and it was Hunter, Langdon, Salem, Hibbo at different times, I thought, but, I think he also... he had a hand in some good things, but then it was Roo who did nothing, and he was a silly boy with what he did. Chandler as well with the 0 tackles. And then one player that was incredibly down, that's been incredibly up all season, was Rivdog. He was really down. So there are a number of players.
A lot of improvement.
There's a number of players you could blanket and you go, fuck, what did you do? Didn't really contribute much. So I agree with Sam. I definitely agree with Adzy as well around, like, Petrarca is probably the one player that
he's our central point.
Yeah, but
Max.
He's the player that a lot of Carlton fans are talking about, and they're going, "Fuck, we need to be wary of him," particularly if he goes forward, because as we always say, and it's like the Dustin Martin thing, good luck. No one can match up on these types of players. They're absolute bulls. So I reckon Trac's going to be a massive factor. I think for us going the other way, just touching on your point about Charlie Curnow. Given that Mackay is not there and given that Jack Martin is not there, isn't as scary a proposition. And this could come back to haunt me. Of course it could, because he's the best forward in the comp. He's an absolute freak, and he's one of the few players in the comp outside of Melbourne that I love watching. Like, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's a star.
He's an absolute star, and he plays footy in a fair manner, and he seems like he's a good lad, and I just love watching him. He's an absolute star, as you say. But because Mackay's not there, it means a Tomlinson who's come in. If Tomo had to play on Mackay, we'd be sitting here having a conversation about, fuck, he doesn't have a lot of mobility left, Tomo, and you'd start to fret about that as a matchup. The other thing is, if Jack Martin was playing, you'd be starting to fret about the fact that Lever won't be able to get off the chain and support May and help intercept with Curnow. Because Jack Martin is so clever. Like, not only is he a classy footballer, but he's fucking smart. Like, he would be able to figure out and run Lever out of that 50 and get him out of the space, vacate the space that Charlie wants to run into and make it a nightmare for Stephen May. So when those two players went down, I think from a structural perspective and also an impact perspective, but more so structurally, for us, I started to think, fuck yeah, we're lucky. Like, we're really lucky that those two players are out, because it will allow Lever, in particular, to do his thing and zone off and be able to create that second man up, or third man up rather, coming across and intercepting against Charlie Curnow. So, I mean, if Mackay and Martin were playing, I would really start to worry about us defensively. But because they're out, I actually think it puts us in a much better position.
Can we just get to the
go
teams?
through the teams?
I can't believe that this bloke has been left out.
Oh,
Hibbo. Hibbo kept Jamie Elliott to 6 touches last week, I think it was, or 8 touches, and 0 goals.
Yeah.
Yes, he got beaten a couple of times in the first quarter, but we spoke at length, I think it was on the podcast and just in our WhatsApp groups about how combative he is, how finals ready he is, and he's out. Is he injured? I don't get it.
I'm
he's also literally playing as if it's the last game of his career.
I think that is a huge call. And Tomlinson.
Yeah, but the only thing I'll say
Can you
about
go through
that,
the changes?
Yeah,
first?
I will. The only thing I'll say about Hibbo is watching at the ground and seeing him trailing in 20, 30 metres behind Jamie Elliott.
That only happened a couple of times in the first quarter. After that, he was all over him.
Oh, mate.
Didn't even notice early.
I love him, and you think about him as a finals player. and he is combative. But the one thing that I've come around to, and I think we have to go through the teams now, and then I'll come back to the point. So we've brought in Adam Tomlinson, Charlie Spargo, and JJ. And then out goes Gus, obviously with the concussion. Bailey Laurie, the sub. Van Rooyen, suspended. And Hibbo, who we just spoke about. Now I come back to this point. Adam Tomlinson allows Lever to do his thing, and Melbourne are such a better team when Lever's allowed to intercept. And the last two times that we've played Carlton, Jake Lever has taken 12 intercept marks in both games and been pivotal, absolutely pivotal, and one of the reasons why we won the first encounter and we just lost the second encounter. He was brilliant.
Sorry, 12 intercept marks or 12 intercept possessions?
12 intercept, it would be possessions.
Yeah, it wouldn't be marks.
It wouldn't be marks.
Yeah.
So thanks for correcting, like Nuggets always does. But just on Tomo, there's this fucking crazy stat. It's crazy. I can't actually believe it's true.
Yeah, this is huge.
We are 17-0 when May, Lever, and Tomlinson play together.
I can't believe that. That's huge.
I also
surely the coach is like,
just going back.
We actually haven't lost when all three of them are.
Let's put him in.
Why
put him in.
haven't we been doing this the
They
whole
know
time?
about it, right?
They mustn't.
I reckon just going back to Pig, like very sad to see him go out.
Yeah.
But I think if we win this game, he comes back in for Brisbane.
For
Pig?
Charlie.
For Charlie.
Yeah.
So you think but for me, it's
I
a matchup thing. They're small. Who's in their forward line? They've got Curnow, Motlop is going to play like forward pocket. You'd think Fogarty, Doherty, Owies, and De Koning are their front six.
Don't know.
I don't get why they're playing now.
If we get through, I will not be surprised if Pig comes back in to play on Charlie.
Even if we're 18 and zip with all three of them.
No, well, I mean, who's to say that it's going to be Tomlinson that will go out? There's a few players in there that could be dropped as well. So like a Bowie, even like, I don't want to say it, but like Salem hasn't been that good recently as well. So
and we've got to get him into the game, and I've been speaking about that a lot. Just I'm going to put it to you then. Brodie Grundy, Michael Hibberd, Bailey Laurie, and Josh Shackey are the emergencies. I'm going to put a line through Shackey. Sorry, buddy. Diesel. I'm almost going to put a line through Laurie. Who is the sub out of Grundy and Hibberd?
I reckon you do...
Because I don't think we go with Laurie again.
I reckon you do Grundy just purely because...
Max.
We haven't brought in...
because Max, everyone knows Max is sore.
Yeah.
So if we get into a position where, touch wood, hopefully he doesn't come off...
We'd be stuffed.
Injured. But if he fucks his foot in the first, quarter or
And Grundy
two,
wins it for us.
Grundy can come in. But also, he's someone that can go forward too.
Imagine if he won it for us.
I think we have lots of players that can go back and help out, but I think Grundy would be more of a safety of a player that could come on.
Grundy's a sub.
Could it not be Spargo, the sub? I haven't looked.
No, Spargo's in the team.
So Spargo's named on the field.
Yeah.
So my biggest question is that we've lost our key forward, Van Rooyen.
Yeah.
And we're not bringing... It doesn't look like we're bringing a key forward in.
No, because what we're going to do is we'll play Tom McDonald and Joel Smith up forward.
With Fritter.
Yep.
And Trac.
Okay.
That's tall enough.
Yeah.
And then we've still got Kozzy and Spargo to
So maybe, the thought is it's going to be a faster game. Do you think it could be a faster game than what we'd expect playing them, the last couple of times, middle of winter, slow stoppages? Maybe they think we want a bit more pace up forward?
Yeah, potentially. I still think it'll be an absolute slog. I think it's just the nature of the way these two teams play. Like, I cannot see a fast, rapid...
Goodwin actually said that.
Open
in
game.
his presser. I don't know if you watched it.
No. What did he say?
He just said it'll be a close slog.
It'll be
basically.
a slog.
Yeah.
Which means that they're going to set up as defensively as we've seen the last couple of times.
Yeah, so are we actually going down that path? Like, is Grundy going to be the sub?
Nah, I don't think so.
I think he needs to be. Just as a safety for Gawn.
I don't mind it.
What happens if Max gets injured in the first quarter? Are you going to put T-Mac in the ruck for 3 quarters? You need to have that safety there. Like, we have so many other players that can fill other positions and move to other positions.
Yeah.
You can't have Max with that injury around him and not have someone to back him up.
It could even be
Grundy.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Look, it could even be if you're want to change something up halfway through the game or whatever, the third quarter, last quarter, we might be playing all right. Sort of give Max a run just up forward, park him in the forward line and try and take, he's probably the best contested mark in the comp. Just take a few contested marks in the last quarter and let Grundy get to work. And then it's almost see what we get the
I
next
love
week.
that.
Yeah.
Like in a perfect world,
Yeah.
we're up by 40 points in the third quarter. Let's put Max forward.
We're up by 40.
We're up by 40.
In a slugfest.
I'm saying in a perfect
Haven't
world.
won by 40 for years.
I'm saying in a perfect world, let's bring Big Fat Broads in, put him in the ruck, put Max forward,
Big Fat Broads.
and kick some goals, brother.
He just becomes our super sub for the rest of the final series, and he absolutely dominates.
But this is big. Like, I think these changes, obviously, people will be hearing this well after the teams have been announced. But hearing this now, it sort of makes me more confident. I don't know why. I think Spargo in is good. I think he's a good decision maker. He's been not at his best this year, but over Laurie, I thought Laurie was actually really good when he came on as a sub against Sydney.
He was.
But last week he had a whole game pretty much against Collingwood, and he didn't do much, did he?
No.
But he's still coming through.
He'll be all right.
Yeah.
He's raw. I mean, he was always going to be the impact sub, and we spoke about that on the show last week. Like, he's perfect as an impact sub.
He had really sharp skills and stuff against Sydney, but didn't take it last week. So you can see why
you got to question the sub though. And I said this on Monday. Like, I'm sorry, if this kid isn't ready and primed in the off chance in a final, when an incident happens and you're thrown into the fire early in a game, and you can't actually play 4 quarters and have an impact for the whole game. Why are we making that choice?
Yeah.
So the sub, as you rightly put it, if it's Brodie Grundy there as an insurance policy for Max Gawn, like, makes sense. And if it's Michael Hibberd, again, it makes sense. You're bringing in a bloke that's primed and he's ready and he loves finals footy.
So if you take that approach then for Carlton, who's their insurance policy you'd think is probably in the midfield. So if they lose, say, a Cripps, who we know is under.
Who did they bring in?
So they've got on their emergencies.
No, but who's their ins and outs?
Oh, they just brought in Kennedy and that's it.
That was it.
And there's 2 out. So that means that Motlop will start. He is starting on the field, and there'll be someone to come into the sub. So I think it'll be probably Dow if I'm looking at it now. So it's Dow, Hollins, Fisher, and Durden. I reckon if Paddy Cripps is still wearing a brace on his ribs, or just say something happens to him or one of the other midfielders, Dow's the most obvious choice to be as a sub. I think the coaches would look like, where's the biggest risk on the field? Like, what can we?
And that's exactly what I was saying.
Unless you're playing this is a final, right? So you take that approach. Obviously, in games where you're confident, you don't need to do the same. But I'm thinking, probably Dow will be their sub.
You've talked me into this. I'm 100% on board. It's Brodie.
Yeah. And it could
and
be
he's
a bit of fun as well. Who knows?
Imagine if he comes on and he just rips it and you're like, please stay. Don't go to Sydney. We love you, Brodie.
I'm not sold on him leaving yet, by the way.
We love you. I think he's going. It's done and dusted. But just on Carlton as well. So I think Carlton set up so well behind the ball. They're so similar to us. But there's one area that is concerning me in the same way that it concerned me last week. And it was Josh Dacos and Steele Sidebottom, who was fucking brilliant. He's a gun. Always enjoyed watching Steele Sidebottom go about it. Against Lockie Hunter and Ed Langdon. And I tell you what, man, Hunter and Langdon need to step the fudge up. They really do, because Cottrell, who was really good last week, and Akers has been brilliant for them in this whole run.
Well, I'm sorry. Akers last week had the best game of his career.
He's been really good though.
He has been
better to have it last week than this week.
But if he does that again this week, I'll be in shock.
Well, his shoulder looked cooked, so get Jack Viney into him.
Well, his shoulder's always cooked.
Yeah. No, we can do flying.
Yeah,
smothers.
they could just hit their bad shoulders and knock each other out.
No, we can do flying smothers now. So we'll just get Jack Viney
let's not go there. Yeah. We have made a concerted effort not to talk about that, which is good.
You fucking dog, man.
Flying smothers. Oh, it's coming out now. I like it. So the one player that we have to speak about as well, because it was a big point of contention when he came in last week, was Tom McDonald. So T-Mac
He looked slow, didn't he?
He was a little bit slow.
Did he play his role?
I
don't think he did.
I put it out there and I said, if T-Mac can do one thing for me, I'll be content or satisfied to a degree.
Could Grundy not have done that, though?
Well, no. The one thing I said was, I just want T-Mac to go out there and kick 2 goals. Kicks the first in the last from the goal square. That was clever. Nice balk.
Sorry, kicks the first in the last quarter.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he ends up missing that set shot opportunity, which was probably a gimme. He's only 30 metres out on a bit of an angle. So he almost got his 2. He almost got his 2 goals. And I was like, as a measurement of success, get your 2, T-Mac.
So it wasn't far off.
But that's not the true measurement of success. Let's be real. It had to be more around bringing the ball to ground and bringing other players into play and not getting beaten by your direct opponent. And he got beaten by his direct opponent far too many times.
And who was that? Who was he playing on? Can you remember? Was it Murphy or was it?
I think it was Murphy in the end was predominantly on him, but also more zones off and suddenly he's
I mean,
on him.
the entry didn't do him any favours.
No. And you're right. Like, it didn't do him any favours and he might be better for the run.
Yeah, has played VFL for the last few weeks, so it's a big step up. In a final against 93,000.
True, but he's experienced. He's been around the traps.
He's played some big games in sort of in front of big crowds. So
huge.
Hopefully he can.
It's such a big ask again of T-Mac, but we can't. We're actually at a point now where Van Rooyen's out, and that could hurt us. But I don't even know if we're at a point where we can ask too much of Tom.
No.
Like, how much can we get out of Tom McDonald? Tom McDonald, unfortunately, he's not there to win us a game of footy. He's just a structural cog, and he just needs to do as much as is humanly possible with his body now. I watched a player last week where I said to myself, fuck, if we're pinning our hopes on him, we're in a little bit of trouble. No disrespect to T-Mac. He's a premiership hero. He was unbelievable in that 2021 run, particularly the first half of the year. He set our year up. He was awesome, but I just look at him and I go, I'm more focused on Bailey Fritsch. Can you go kick 3, 4 or 5? Christian Petrarca, can you go kick 3 or 4 or 5? And the other player I just want to touch on, who I think can rip it to shreds, and he was close last week. He was close. Is Kozzy.
Yeah.
Kozzy is a firecracker, and he's a player that sometimes doesn't realise that he's got more time. You've got afterburners, brother. You are so fucking quick. And sometimes he gets out into space and he rushes a little bit, and he's not the full package yet. Kozzy's still got a long way to go in his journey and to become the player that we all think he will become. Like, we all think he's going to be...
He's definitely improved this year.
Absolutely, but we all think he's going to be one of the most outstanding small forwards in the comp, like a Charlie Cameron, who's a joy to watch. But Kozzy, this week, and it's another player like Petrarca that Blues supporters I know are fucking worried about, because he does have the capacity to break a game open and take it away from you. I just want him to have a little bit more composure this week.
It's all set up for him. Yeah, I freaking part of the reason why Charlie Cameron up in Brisbane is so good, and taking nothing away from his physical attributes and his talent, is the conditions he plays in every home game are close to perfect. Like, what more can you want as a speedy small forward to play in balmy 18 degrees? Yes, it might get a bit slippery, but he's playing in dry conditions most of the time at home, and he kicks a lot of goals at home. Down here in Melbourne through June, July, August, good luck getting that. It's hard as a small forward. You got to play different, right? So Kozzy, for me, is on the same level as a Cameron up in Brisbane. Give him a nice, dry, warm night tomorrow night. I reckon you're right, AD. I reckon he is primed for a big game. And we need him, because you can't just rely on your fritters. And that's the other point I wanted to make really quickly on Tom McDonald. Yes, he's not the same as he was a couple of years ago, but we can't be... Bailey Fritsch needs someone like him in the team, because he takes the best. He takes the best defender. Look, who knows who's... will Wiedering go to Fritter? I'm not sure. I reckon Wiedering's more likely to go to a McDonald or a Smith. And then that leaves... who's their other...
Kemp.
Yeah, Kemp to go to Fritz.
Good player.
You need a T-Mac or someone in there to have, almost to play the foil. And that's his role. And look, if he does it well and we win, and then we win next week, he could find himself in the grand final.
Does Slamma have the crystal ball? I feel like he was moving a week ahead, and it's Kozzy lighting up the Gabba, and it's not Charlie Cameron. Did you kind of feel that energy? Did you feel it?
Well, I agree with him with what he said about Kozzy. Like, I think Kozzy's just as good as Cameron. He's unbelievable. Like the thing that is a little bit frustrating from last week is that he had lots of opportunities. I think he kicked 1 goal, 3, including one out on the full. Like it's also that shot that he had. I think it was deep in the last quarter. That's his bread and butter. I don't know if that's the crowd getting to him or whatever it is, but I don't think he's a player that will do that again. He's a superstar, and that's what excites me about this game. I think our players who made those mistakes, even you see like a Fritter in the last quarter, and he probably one of the worst kicks I've seen in AFL history, that set shot that he had. And that comes down to pressure, like pure pressure. And I think our team last week crumbled under that. And that would have been a massive talking point in their meetings this week. And they just need to stand up. So I don't think we're a team that does that 2 weeks in a row. I think we're going to come out, and I think we're going to come out firing. I think Kozzy's going to fire. You know what? I'm actually a little bit bullish on T-Mac as well. Like, he had his first game back for us. I know he's slow. He's not the best player to watch at the moment, or the quickest, to the ball. But as Sam said, he's a structural piece that we need in our team that will help out a Bailey Fritsch and anyone else really in the forward line, even to bring it down to ground. And one of the biggest things that I like from our ins is Charlie Spargo. So he hasn't played for a while, but he is a beautiful kicker of the football, he lowers his eyes. So I hope that we see him up near the forward flank and near the wing. And if he gets the ball in his hands and he's kicking inside 50, he's hitting a target. And that's exactly what we missed last week.
Yep. I totally agree. I think the onus is on him. I think the onus is on guys like Chandler to lift their work rate. I really like Neil Bullen's game last week. I thought he was unheralded. I thought he did as much as he probably could. I think it's guys like him. I actually have a lot of faith in him when it comes to finals. Like guys like him, because they're going to give 100%. Tom Sparrow probably need a little bit more as well. We've spoken about all the other players that we believe that we need a little bit more from. But one thing that I cannot overstate more, and it comes back to what you were just saying then, Adzy. Melbourne have constantly spoken about absorbing pressure, embracing pressure, being in all these positions. We've lost 3 finals in a row at the MCG. We played against 2 interstate sides last year, Brisbane and Sydney. We had the lion's share of the crowd there, and we found ways to gas opportunities, and we found a way to lose both games of footy, right? Regardless of fitness, whatever. Collingwood game last week as well. A great example is there's 14 general shots from Melbourne, and we end up kicking 4 goals, 5 behinds, and 5 that didn't even register. Collingwood, on the other hand, 11 shots, 7 goals, 3 behinds, and 1 didn't register. Accuracy is so important. Like, it's beyond important. And if Melbourne want to be this team that...
We've lost a lot of games because of that this year.
Correct. And if Melbourne want to be this team that says that they thrive in pressure situations and that they welcome it, then tomorrow night, one of the few things that you can do as a football side is take your chances. When they arrive, you need to be accurate. You need to be clinical. Collingwood were clinical last week. Absolutely clinical. They kicked the 9-6 every time we threatened in the third quarter, and we had a lot of the play and we had the game on our terms. They were so good at being able to rouse themselves, get a centre clearance, find an avenue to goal. Bang, done. See you later. We need to channel a similar thing, and we need to stop fucking ourselves over, just to be frank. Like that, the thing that annoys me the most is that it's a club that constantly talks about embracing pressure, but then crumbling in execution in front of goal. And accuracy, still to this day, when it comes to AFL, is the single most important thing in footy. And what comes with it when you're chasing scoreboard and when you've had a poor start, is the pressure on you to be able to try and chase that score down is magnified. So kick the goals, and I mean, again, that comes back to starting well, and let's say getting out to a 3-goal one or a 4-goal one scenario. Like, don't get yourselves back into a position where you're 1-4, you've missed a lot of opportunities, the opposition is taking their chances, and then the players start to drop their heads a bit because they're like, fuck, we're doing a lot right. Like, we're doing a lot right, but we're not doing the most important thing. And it's kicking goals.
I think the thing with this year is it's very different to last year. So last year, as everyone listening will know, like we were crawling to the line. I know we had a better season, but
Trac had a broken leg.
Yeah, we had players falling down. Max couldn't bend over to pick up a ball. So I think this is a lot different. And I think Melbourne supporters need to look at this in a different way. So we're still in the finals at the moment. I'll be devastated if we lose to the Blues. And the reason for that is because I know that we're good and I know we should be there. Whereas last year it was make the season end. This year we have finished the season so well. And I think lots of people get caught up in 1 week of football, and it's happened throughout the year, where if you actually look at it, and I said it at the start, we lost by 7 points. We could have won the game. We had 8 kicks out on the full. We had plays that were so down on form. Someone like Rivers had his worst game for the year. Kozzy's kicking, and Fritter kicking them out on the full. We're not the team we were last year in finals. So I think that we should take some confidence into the game tomorrow because we are the better team and we should win the game. And if we don't win the game, then for me, that is pretty nuts. Just because if we go out 2 years in a row straight sets, I'll take last year, we were on one leg, but this year it's not acceptable. And I just can't see us doing it this year.
We got to remember as well, coming in, I think you said at the start, 80, we were 7-1 in the last 8 weeks, and that one loss was against Carlton, which was debatable. So we're 7-2 at this point in the last 9 weeks. 7-2, and 2 of the losses we've had, one was the goal line thing, the other one was against the rampaging Pies by 7 points. We gave up a start. So if you're talking about confidence of the supporter base, we should be confident. We are. There's so many parts of our game that are still in really good order. We just need a little bit of an uplift here and there. And as you say, like kicking a goal, you're never going to be able to guess which way it's going to go. It's been like that for 150 years, right?
Yeah.
A lot of it depends on where you're kicking them from. But we were missing some sitters last week. And
ours is a pattern though, Sam.
Yeah, I know. But I just think that we've always, this year especially, we've been good at bouncing back after loss. So let's hope that, yes, we caught Collingwood and lost, but we had the double chance and we just need to go on with it from now.
What's the stat? Wasn't there something when we've lost a game? I think we've only lost 2 games in a row for the last 40 games or something, isn't it? Something.
Yeah, well, we did it this year.
The only one I can think of is Geelong and GWS, and the GWS game is funny because it's an anomaly because we ended up going 5-15 or kicked 5-15, and then expected score said we'd win the game by 6 goals.
Yeah, but we lost.
I know that, but all I'm saying is like you keep coming back to the point that so many elements of our game were still in shape.
Yeah.
In the way that so many elements of our game were still in shape last week against
So that's why turning up tomorrow
Well
night, I'm a little bit, as I said off the top, I'm a little bit indifferent. I think we may well lose, who knows? But part of my brain also says you need to be like quite confident because you've got a great team in really good order. But I think it's just the fact that we've lost 3 finals on the bounce that is sort of playing on my mind. And I imagine that a lot of people would be in the same boat. But if we play our best, I don't think Carlton can get near us.
Yeah. It's just whether we can get the game on our terms for long enough. Because look at Patrick Cripps, absolute champion. I like Patrick Cripps. I think he's awesome. He's been through a lot of shit. He had his moment last week. He kicks the goal in front of the raucous Carlton supporters. They win a final. It felt eerily similar to us in 2018.
It does.
And that's what I'm worried about. Are they going to do a Melbourne versus Hawthorn?
Well, that's the thing. They're riding a huge wave. Let's not forget that.
I mean, maybe. And their fans are absolutely loving it and they're pumped up. But like Cripper, you look at like Chera's had a really good year. Like Sam Walsh has come back in. He's class. Like George Hewitt's come through. He's been an amazing recruit for them. So from a midfield perspective, they don't fear us as much as probably a few other clubs do, because even when Oliver and Viney and Gawn and Sparrow and Petrarca and Rivers run through there and they're all fucking bulls, like they've got bulls of their own. So we talk about how the game will be won in terms of who's got more polish and who's cleaner, because they're not great at both going inside 50, but they've still got so many amazing ball winners that if they get on top and start smashing us from clearance and stoppage, they force their own territory game on us. Like, we're in a fucking pickle. So we've got to make sure that doesn't happen. So at the very, 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 very least, I think from a midfield perspective, you just got to halve it.
Yeah, it was like the first 10 minutes of the last quarter in round 22 when we lost to them. They won that game because of that first 10 minutes of the last quarter where they were just running it out of the stoppage. They just somehow managed. I vividly remember Cripps just getting it and just getting it forward, and then one of the mids would be out, and they scored 3 really quick goals. They didn't have Walsh and they didn't have Chera that game. We didn't have Oliver, or did we have Oliver?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe, no, I think that might have been the last game he missed. But anyway, so a couple of key personnel in for them. We just need to watch that because Cripps is a bull. He'll get it and he'll put his arms up and he'll just handball it out. We just need to be smart around the ball and not be bees to a honeypot, because that's sort of how we play. We've got Viney, Petrarca, Oliver in there at various stages together, and they all play kind of similar. Like Trac's a little bit more outside. No, that was
Clary's return game.
Was it?
If you remember, so he went berserk. Yeah. He went berserk in the second half.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
right. He had like 5 touches in the first half.
So yeah, so look, they had a few gun midfielders out, and Sam Walsh is starting to really tune up. So it's not going to be easy at the coalface.
No, and I think it's pretty simple. If they get the game where they want it and they smash us in clearance and stoppage, like it's almost game over. I'm sorry. Like, you can't, against a team like this that have the same defensive web and ability to just trap it in, like, you're stuffed. In a weird way, though, and we never play like this, it would be interesting to see what happened if someone did that to us and we did the, Joe the Goose out the back and it was fucking Kozzy just on the end of the
I feel like
goals.
We did do that a few years ago. When Goody first came in, we were playing that slingshot way.
Yeah.
Like, remember Paul Roos was all about defence and just setting up the defensive unit. And then Goody came in and everyone's like, oh, he's this attacking, flary coach. And we started scoring better and we were kicking 100 points a game. And now we seem to, I think just by the way we've traded, like we've got 2 gun All-Australian defenders. So we set up from the back half. But there is that in us. There is I think that we can flick it if we need to.
We have gears.
Yeah, we do. Like, we kicked 130 points against Brisbane 5 weeks ago.
We just got to look laterally. We have not been doing it enough. Like, last week killed me. It was tunnel vision. It was down the line, down the line, down the line. And then it was, okay, we're just going to get all our men behind the ball and you're going to kick to an inside 50 that's got 30
I think we'll change it up this week. Definitely.
Got to look board.
I can't wait. I think that it's going to be a different looking team. The weather's going to be different. It's going to be, hopefully on
bad conditions.
Yeah.
The beers are going to be sick beforehand. They're going to be so good.
What about lining up?
Ooh. No, don't have to. Don't have to. Just go to my...
Should we do Prettyco's?
Go to my standing spot after getting a seat. The Nuggets thought that was harsh. Just quickly, well done. We haven't gone there. We've kept it inside. We're a classy bunch. We don't want to go to the depths of disgusting antics like others, and we won't go into those areas and go down the rabbit hole. But we'll do our predictions. So I'll start. I just think it's a slugfest. It's exactly what Goody thinks it is. I can't wait for Adzy's prediction.
He's been right a few times, has he? No, I don't know.
I think as long as we don't give him a start, I feel like we'll just be able to just keep an arm's length for the most part. And, up by a goal at halftime, close, tight, and then maybe up by a couple of goals at 3/4 time. Carlton rally a bit. They've got the crowd. They're fucking loud. And it looks like, they're a chance of running over the top of us, and they peg us back, and it might be even level pegging through the last quarter. But then I just think this fitness base and the way that we've been running out games all year will get us over the line. So I'm going to tip us by 10 points. And it's going to be nerve-wracking because if Carlton get level after coming from behind halfway through the last quarter, we'll all be shitting ourselves and thinking, why did we even go through this experience? But that's where I've come to. And the player for me tomorrow night is Kozzy. I'm going to say it again. I think Kozzy can be the difference. I'm going to back Kozzy in to kick 4 goals, and people are going to look back at it and go, he was the one that got off the chain. So, yeah, that's my predico. Sammy?
Yeah, so I reckon we're going to do the opposite of last week and start well. I think that would have been a big focus throughout the week. A lot of chat during the week in the media and just general football supporters about that issue and obviously the Maynard issue. But I think a lot of it just focused around our poor start and then how we weren't able to convert. So I reckon my big tip is that we'll start really well. We might actually build a bit of a lead early on. Ooh. So, 20 points, maybe 2 or 3 goals, let's say that. They won't go away easily, though. They've proven that over the last 12 weeks. So it's not as if we're going to run away with it, but I think we might be able to hold them at bay. And then I'm tipping in the last quarter, if we've still got that 3-goal sort of margin in our favour, we could just run away with it. And I'm looking at guys like Fritter and Kozzy and these small forwards who had a bit of a down week last year to get to work, tackling, pressure, and then a few sort of spill goals. And my prediction is we'll win by 30 points, 5 goals.
Oh, 30 points.
That's small.
How small, though? Let's find out.
No, I don't know. One of the big ins that I really like is Charlie Spargo. Yeah. Not that he's going to kick a heap of goals, but
10.
He'll probably kick 7 or 8. And then, but it's more so his
7 or 8.
Probably more so his delivery inside 50. Yeah. Bailey Fritsch is in dry conditions. He loves dry conditions, very similar to the conditions we won the flag in. And I don't like to put too much on one player, but I think Trac, he'll come out firing from the first bounce.
You haven't spoken about him at all tonight.
We actually haven't mentioned Clary as well.
Yeah, who got back to his best last week.
But, I mean, that's another conversation. Like, I think Clary's obviously the GOAT, but Trac, I think, has the X factor. And for a game like this, I can tell that the Melbourne team have been reviewing this. And they're thinking how we can kick goals. We had probably 17 players down on form last week. So I'm just thinking an easy 120 win. So that's my prediction.
Oh, God. I don't mind it, though. That's good. Yeah, the other player that we haven't mentioned...
I said 250 last week, so I've dropped it down.
Yeah, by 130 or something. Maxi Gawn's, like, we could spend all pod talking about Maxi, but his game last week was
ridiculous.
And Clary. Like, I think the message there is we know their guns. They had such a good game. Like, let's support them. Because you know what you're going to get with those three. They're going to play again.
As a collective. A collective. And the last thing I'll say before we wrap up, Melbourne supporters.
Get there.
Not only get there, but rouse yourselves. I know we're all feeling a little bit dejected. We're feeling a little bit sorry for ourselves. It's 2022 all over again. It's not. You can
have a chance.
You can have an influence, and it would be easy to go into this game with our tails between our legs. You cannot do that. You cannot do that.
The players feel it when the crowd's up, I reckon.
100%. We need to get up and about. We need to be excited. This is a big opportunity. It's a chance to get into a prelim. So Melbourne supporters need to fire up because there's so many of us that are feeling the effects of last week, what obviously happened with the Maynard and Brayshaw incident, the way that Melbourne have been spoken about in the media. People are coming at us with their knives out, which is fucking pathetic and makes no sense to me. But we need to go into the MCG fired up and angry. And we need to go in there fired up and angry in a controlled sense and know that the players are probably feeling pretty filthy about last week, knowing that we had the game where we wanted it and the way that Collingwood had set up and we dominated and we didn't execute. And the supporters need to trust that the players will come out and they will provide a response after what has happened, not only last week during the game, but what happened after the game and the way that certain people have tried to drag our football club through the mud, which is fucking baffling and a disgrace that some people have done that. I'm not going to name names. They know who they are. But Melbourne supporters, this is a chance to get to a prelim, to play a team that their only loss at their home ground, their last loss, the previous loss, has come against us. So fire up.
I'll see you next week, Naughtsie.
Love it.
I'll definitely see you next week.
How good it would be.
Prelim.
We'll be here next week.
We'll be talking about prelim.
Going into like the game again. Yeah, I don't want to go there, but it would be fantastic. And we should be confident. So
it will be prelim next week.
Yeah.
I have no doubt. And if these boys are made of the right stuff, we'll come through this.
Yeah, agreed. Just everyone remember, we lost by 7 points. We're still a great team. And we're going to win, and then we're going to be excited next week.
Absolutely. It's going to be good. Anyway, enjoy the game, and
fuck off.
Cut that.
And go Dees.
Go Dees.